I stood in the gymnasium of Lincoln Elementary, watching my husband Mike smile and wave at the parents filing in for the annual fundraiser meeting. He looked so normal. So devoted. The loving husband of the dedicated third-grade teacher, ready to support another school initiative. 20 minutes later, I would destroy both our lives in front of 200 people, but let me back up. Hey everyone. If this story hits you like it hit me that night, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you've ever had a moment where your whole world just cracked open. Because what I'm about to tell you changed everything I thought I knew about love, lies, and what happens when you finally decide to stop pretending. 3 weeks before that meeting, I was grading papers at our kitchen table. You know that domestic scene, coffee getting cold, red pen bleeding corrections across multiplication worksheets, Mike watching ESPN with the volume too loud. Normal Tuesday night in Norman, Oklahoma. We'd been married 16 years. 2 kids, Emma, 14, and Jake, 11. I taught third grade at the same school they attended. We were solid. Or so I thought. Mike worked construction, traveled for big projects. Gone maybe 10 days a month, sometimes 2 weeks. I'd gotten used to managing everything alone, school events, doctor appointments, that special brand of exhaustion that comes from being the responsible parent while your spouse lives in hotel rooms across 3 states. But that Tuesday, his phone kept buzzing on the counter. Buzz. 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 Honey, your phone, I called out. Just work stuff, he said, not moving from the couch. Let it go. More buzzing. Like urgent buzzing. The kind that makes your stomach clench because phones don't usually ring that insistently unless something's wrong. Walked over to silence it, and the screen lit up with a text notification. From someone named Sarah. Kids are asking when Daddy's coming home. Maya's recital is Thursday. My blood turned to ice water. Kids. Plural. Maya. A recital. My hands started shaking as I read the message again. Then I scrolled up, just a little, just enough to see more messages from Sarah. Messages about soccer practice and grocery shopping and tell the kids I love them. I felt like I was drowning while standing in my own kitchen. Mike, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Who's Sarah? The sound from the TV seemed to get sucked out of the room. Mike turned around slowly, and I watched his face go through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, panic, calculation, then this weird attempt at casual dismissal. What? Oh, that's Jerry's wife. From the crew. Sometimes she coordinates rides for the guys' kids when we're all working the same job. But here's the thing about being married to someone for 16 years, you know when they're lying. You know their tells. Mike's left eye twitches when he's nervous, and right then it was going crazy. Show me the conversation, I said. Sarah, come on. Don't be paranoid. I'm not Sarah. I'm Beth. Your wife. Show me the damn phone. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. In that moment, I realized I was standing at the edge of something enormous and terrifying, and I could either step back into comfortable ignorance or jump into whatever truth was waiting. I jumped, grabbed his phone before he could react. Mike lunged for it, but I'd already opened the message thread. Sarah, kids miss you so much. When are you coming back to us? Mike, soon baby. Just need to handle some things here first. Sarah, Maya asked if you're going to live with us full-time now. What should I tell her? Mike, tell her Daddy loves her and yes, we're going to be a real family soon. The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the linoleum floor. How long? I whispered. Mike was standing there looking like a man watching his house burn down. Beth, let me explain. How long? 8 years. 8 years. My legs gave out and I sank into one of our kitchen chairs, the ones we bought together at that little furniture store in Tulsa for our 5th anniversary. Everything around me suddenly felt like a lie. The coffee mugs with our wedding photo. The family calendar on the refrigerator. The mortgage papers with both our names. We have 2 kids together, Mike. Maya and Eli. Maya's 7, Eli's 5. 2 kids. He had 2 kids I'd never heard of. A whole other family while I was here packing his lunches and washing his work clothes and explaining to Emma and Jake why Daddy missed another school play, thought about all those work trips. All those times he'd call and say the job was running long, he'd be home late Sunday instead of Friday. All those times I'd rearranged my life, covered for him, made excuses to our kids about why their father wasn't there. He'd been living a double life for 8 years. Do you love her? I asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. Mike opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said the words that shattered the last piece of my heart. Yes. Not, I love you both. Not, it's complicated. Just yes. Are you leaving us? Another pause. Another truth bomb waiting to detonate. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. I started laughing. Not happy laughing, that horrible, bitter laughter that comes when something is so absurd your brain can't process it any other way. Here I was, thinking we were planning our future, and he was planning his exit strategy. The school fundraiser meeting is next week, I said, which was possibly the most random thing to say in that moment, but my brain was short-circuiting. You promised you'd help me with the presentation. Beth, we need to talk about, you're going to help me with that presentation, Mike. You're going to stand up there next to me and smile at all those families and act like the devoted husband you've never actually been. Something shifted in my voice. Something cold and sharp. Mike must have heard it too because he took a step backward. And then what? He asked. Then we'll see what happens. The week leading up to the meeting was surreal. I functioned like a robot, taught my classes, helped with homework, made dinner. But inside, I was planning. Thinking. Mike tried to talk to me several times, but I shut him down every time. Not until after the meeting, I'd say, he started getting nervous. Really nervous. The eye twitch was constant now. What are you planning, Beth? Just practicing my presentation, I'd say, typing furiously on my laptop late at night. The truth was, I was researching. I'd found Sarah's Facebook page. Sarah Martinez lives in Amarillo, Texas. Construction project manager. Beautiful woman with 2 gorgeous kids who looked exactly like Mike. She'd been posting photos of family activities for years. Mike at Maya's soccer games. Mike helping Eli with a science project. Mike carving pumpkins with them last Halloween while I was here alone with Emma and Jake, wondering why he had to work during the holiday. Her Facebook relationship status said it's complicated. Mine still said married. I also found out some interesting things about Mike's finances. Turns out, he'd been supporting 2 households by taking money from our joint savings, our kids' college funds, even remortgaging our house without telling me. We were broke. Completely broke. While I'd been budgeting and clipping coupons and saying no to Emma's requests for new clothes, he'd been building a dream life with another family. Why, the night of the meeting, I'd made my decision. Lincoln Elementary's gymnasium was packed. This was the big annual fundraiser meeting where we presented all the initiatives for the year: new playground equipment, technology upgrades, the reading program. As the 3rd grade team lead, I was giving the main presentation. Mike stood beside me at the front of the room, looking handsome in his good shirt, the blue one I'd bought him for Christmas. He kept glancing at me nervously, but I just smiled. The perfect supportive wife. Thank you all for coming out tonight, I began, clicking to my first PowerPoint slide. As you know, our children's education is the most important investment we can make in their future. Nods and murmurs of agreement from the crowd. I saw familiar faces, parents of my students, colleagues, neighbors. People who'd known Mike and me as a couple for years. Tonight, I want to talk to you about truth, transparency, and what we owe our children. I clicked to the next slide, which should have shown our fundraising goals. Instead, it showed a photo I'd pulled from Sarah's Facebook page, Mike at Maya's birthday party, wearing a world's best dad apron, with his arms around 2 kids our community had never seen. The silence in the room was deafening. This is my husband Mike, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. And these are his other children. Maya, 7, and Eli, 5. He's been supporting this family in Texas for 8 years while living here with our family. Mike grabbed my arm. Beth, stop. Please. I shook him off and clicked to the next slide, bank statements showing money being transferred to Sarah Martinez. He's been funding his double life by stealing from our children's college funds and secretly mortgaging our family home. While I've been here asking you for donations to support our school programs, my husband has been systematically destroying our financial future to maintain his affair. The room erupted. People were standing, talking over each other, phones coming out to record. I could see shock, confusion, some people heading for the exits. Mike was red-faced, furious. You've lost your mind. This isn't the place. When I asked the place, Mike? I turned to face him directly, and my voice carried across the room. When you finally worked up the courage to leave us? When Sarah got tired of being your side piece? When our kids aged out of believing your lies about work trips? I clicked to the final slide, a photo of our family from last Christmas, all 4 of us smiling around our tree. I've been teaching your children for 8 years, I said to the room. I've taught them about honesty, about integrity, about treating others with respect. Tonight, I want to show them what it looks like when someone decides to stop accepting lies, even when the truth is devastating. I looked directly at Mike. I want a divorce. I want you out of our house tonight. And I want everyone in this room to understand that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones destroying us in plain sight. The gymnasium had gone completely silent again. You could hear the ventilation system humming then, from somewhere in the middle of the crowd, someone started clapping. Slow, deliberate claps. Then another person joined in. Then another, within seconds, half the room was applauding. Mike looked around at the faces staring at him. Some angry, some disgusted, some just sad. Then he looked at me. You've destroyed everything, he said quietly. No, I replied. You did that 8 years ago. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. The aftermath was swift and brutal. By the next morning, the video was everywhere. Not just local Facebook groups, actual news outlets. Oklahoma teacher exposes husband's double life during school meeting was trending on Twitter. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. The school district put me on administrative leave pending an investigation into my conduct. They were worried about my judgment and whether I could maintain appropriate boundaries in my professional role. Mike moved out that weekend. Not to Sarah in Texas, interestingly, apparently she'd broken up with him after seeing the video. Turns out she thought he was divorced and planning to marry her. She was as much a victim as I was. In her own way, Emma and Jake were devastated, confused, angry, mostly at me. Jake kept asking why I had to ruin everything in public. Emma wouldn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Our finances were worse than I'd thought. The house was foreclosed on within 3 months. My teaching license was suspended while the district completed their investigation. I couldn't find work in education anywhere in Oklahoma, but here's the thing nobody talks about when they hear stories like this. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what you're actually made of. 6 months after that night, Emma, Jake, and I loaded everything we owned into a U-Haul and drove to Portland, Oregon. I'd gotten a job at a nonprofit that helps other women navigate divorce and financial recovery. Not teaching, but something that mattered. The kids were still struggling. Therapy was helping, slowly. Jake had started talking to me again, though he was still angry. Emma was protective of both of us in a way that broke my heart, 14 years old and already understanding that adults could fail spectacularly, rented a small apartment in a neighborhood where nobody knew our story. Where I could walk to the grocery store without wondering if people were whispering about the crazy teacher who aired her dirty laundry at a school meeting. Kept thinking about that night in the gymnasium. About the moment I decided to blow up my life in front of 200 people instead of suffering in silence. Some days, I regretted it. The public humiliation, the impact on my kids, losing my career. There had to have been a better way, right? a more dignified way, but other days, most days, I remembered that feeling of finally telling the truth after years of living a lie. Of refusing to be complicit in my own deception anymore. A year later, I got a message on Facebook from a woman named Jennifer. She'd seen the video of my school meeting presentation. "I know this might sound crazy, but your story gave me the courage to leave my husband. He'd been emotionally abusing me for years, and I kept making excuses, thinking I could fix it. Watching you refuse to accept lies anymore made me realize I deserved better. I left him last month. It's terrifying, but I'm free. Thank you." Then another message from Lisa. My husband was having an affair with his secretary for 3 years. Everyone at his office knew. I felt so humiliated and stupid. But seeing how you handled your situation made me realize that shame belongs to the person who lies, not the person who tells the truth. I filed for divorce yesterday. Then Maria, your story helped me understand that protecting my children sometimes means disrupting their sense of normal if that normal is built on lies. The messages kept coming. Dozens of them. Women who'd been living in similar situations, feeling trapped by shame and fear and the desire to keep up appearances, started to understand that sometimes the most important thing you can do is refuse to be quiet about the truth, especially when that truth is ugly and complicated and makes everyone uncomfortable. 2 years later, I was back in the classroom. Different state, different school, but teaching again. The kids in my new 3rd grade class didn't know my story, but I brought something different to the job now. A deeper understanding of resilience, of what it means to rebuild, of how sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is admit your life isn't what it appears to be. Mike and I finalized our divorce. He eventually moved to Arizona, found another job, tried to start over. We have minimal contact, just what's necessary for the kids. Emma and Jake see him during holidays sometimes. The relationship is strained, will probably always be strained. But they're learning to separate their love for their father from their disappointment in his choices. Emma, now 16, told me something last month that I'll never forget. We were driving to her volleyball game, and she said, "Mom, I used to be so angry that you embarrassed our family. But now I'm proud that you refused to live a lie. You taught me that I never have to accept being treated badly, even by people who say they love me." Jake, 13 now, still struggles more with the divorce. But he's also seen what it looks like to build a life based on honesty instead of pretense. He knows his mom as someone who faces hard truths instead of running from them. I think about that night in the gymnasium a lot. About the choice between comfortable lies and devastating truth. About what we owe our children, our communities, ourselves. I could have confronted Mike privately. Could have filed for divorce quietly, kept the whole mess contained within our family. Most people would say that would have been the mature, appropriate thing to do, but here's what I learned: sometimes the most personal truths have the most public impact. Sometimes refusing to be ashamed of someone else's betrayal gives other people permission to stop being ashamed of theirs. Was it messy? Absolutely. Did it cost me almost everything? Yes. Would I do it again, in a heartbeat, because the alternative was continuing to live as an accomplice to my own deception. And I'd rather rebuild my entire life on solid ground than spend another day on the beautiful, fragile foundation of lies. If this story resonates with you, or if you've ever faced a moment where you had to choose between comfortable lies and difficult truths, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is share our stories, the messy, complicated, real ones, so others know they're not alone. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories about what happens when people decide to stop pretending and start living authentically. Because trust me, there are more of us than you think.